have two per pie for this video. I want to talk about the Odyssey and give you some of my thoughts and ways to think about the Odyssey, but I also want to start talking about presenting and how to present, because there's a lot of things to think about and consider. Obviously, your content, what are you sharing? And then who are you sharing this to? You need to really consider your audience and how they're going to receive your content. So I want to give you a presentation as if this were mine. Hi, my name is Pilar Padilla. I'm editing my speech on the Odyssey. Reluctantly, Odysseus tells his Phoenicians the story tale of his wanderings from Troy. The winds sweep him and his men to his mother city of the Cyclones. The men plunder the land and, carried away by greed, stay until the reinforced ranks of the Cyclones turn on them and attack. Odysseus and his crew finally escape, having lost 6 men per ship. A storm sent by Zeus sweeps them along for 9 days before bringing them to the land of lotus eaters. Are you all done with that speech? Yeah, I think so. You really don't ever want to do a speech where you fill a slide with content like that, with words. Nobody is going to read it, and if they do, then we don't need you. You could just email us your presentation. So a slide, you only want words, enough words to maybe give some information, like how is that name spelled or said. You really don't need very many words on a presentation like this. You really want pictures. So if I were to give my speech, I would include pictures. Like, Odysseus is absolutely the quintessential hero. He is known throughout time as the hero of heroes because he ended the Trojan War that lasted for 10 long years by creating this horse with his amazing guile. And that's what he's known for, is this craftiness and strategy, that he's able to think quickly. Although it did take him 10 years, but we're not going to belabor the plot right now. And once the war is won and Odysseus takes off, he is in a ship much like this with a couple hundred men, but he quickly kills them. Well, he doesn't kill them, but he leads them into a storm where most of the men are killed, and he ends up detained on Calypso's island. And this is an interesting part of the story because he's detained for 7 years. And the idea is that although she enchanted him with all of her womanly ways, Odysseus was never taken with his heart, which I can't imagine that your mother would be satisfied with if your father was off with somebody for 7 years. And the idea that it was really her fault and not his, and that's something that continues today. But he is able to get away from this wicked, wicked woman who just detained him from his life and his wife. And he ends up on the shores of the Lotus Eater. Calypso did give him another crew, which was kind of her, but the Lotus Eaters is another interesting piece of the story because every culture or every part of the land has some kind of plant that grows that's an intoxicant, and I find that very interesting. Why is it that there are intoxicants growing throughout this planet? And then there's other intoxicants we make, but the lotus eater would refer to opium. The lotus is not an intoxicant, but the plant does come from Asia. And back in the day when we were so curious about the Orient and the Oriental, the poppy was important. And the poppy is a very addictive drug. It's now the opium drug that gives us all the pain relievers that many people are addicted to today, and heroin. It's an effective drug, but it's a very addictive drug, and it does cause you to be disinterested in your life. And Odysseus recognizes this, and it takes him a while, but he is able to lure the men away from them, where they end up on the island of the Cyclops. And the Cyclops are known to be brutish and savage and rough, but that's another interesting observation. Because when we read the story, we notice that they do farm and they do have order and they are organized, but it is a habit of the powerful to go in and determine primitive peoples as brutish. So I think that's an interesting observation there. Even though these are heroes in war, there are no match for this Cyclops. But Odysseus is curious, and so he does go up to meet them, and quickly realizes they're no match for this Cyclops, and they're stuck in there. And how are we going to get out? Because he's rolled this huge rock in front of them. They can't kill him because they're stuck. And he comes up with that plan to hone the log to a point and burn his eyeball. And they take a strap and they sear that eyeball as they twist it into the socket. And the Cyclops, gets up and screams, ah, because he's drunk. They actually gave him a bunch of liquor. This really powerful, powerful liquor that Odysseus had procured earlier in his journey, and they get the Cyclops really drunk and do this. But the Cyclops gets up and starts screaming. Earlier, also, Odysseus had told him his name was Nobody, which doesn't seem important, but we realize, that was his guile. The Cyclops goes to the cave entrance and starts screaming to his friends, nobody has hurt me. Nobody has done this to me. And they're like, oh, okay, well, if it was you, then we can't help you. So nobody helps him. And meanwhile, Odysseus is tying his men to the bottom of the sheep so that as they pass the Cyclops, he can't feel them. He can only feel the tops of the sheep. So the men are able to escape, and they escape swiftly. But Odysseus starts taunting the Cyclops, me, nana, nana, nana. And that's, one of the most fatal flaws of the hero, to taunt, to be a victim of your pride. Hubris is the fatal flaw and the most deadliest of sins, because we're so motivated by it, by our pride and our unwillingness to be the fool or to fail. And now that's a story.